Hi, my name is Sarah Amankwa. I am a actress slash dancer, singer, poet, painter, you name it, creative. I am based in London, North London to be specific, and yeah, born and bred briefly. Grew up in a, I guess, somewhat religious home setting, but not necessarily Christian in the sense, but it was more kind of the culture. Having Ghanaian parents, Christianity is very much within the culture, but not necessarily the religion that is practiced. But it was very, very much later on in life. I was going through just a long journey of questions, battling. I always kind of knew and acknowledged that there was something higher and greater, but very much within this world and society that was never acknowledged. There was no time for it. It wasn't important. I started going to church, and again, the idea of Jesus being, you know, this dude who came and did this amazing thing and like saved the world was like, you know, sounded pretty cool. But in terms of an actual like personal relationship and him being my savior, that wasn't necessary. The gospel wasn't clear to me then until much later. And even then, I think it was actually from maybe being mistaught in certain churches. I started going to a Pentecostal church. Not bad mouthing the Pentecostal church, but the churches in particular that I was at were not giving me correct teaching. It was very much of interpretation and very much led by feelings. So that then therefore gave me a desire to just want to study the Bible for myself. And then from that, like, really and truly, God just gave me a hunger to seek Him more. London's cool. London is diverse. However, there are very much areas that are segregated. As a culture, British people are very much, there are layers. Like we don't really talk much. It's very, you know, especially living in this city, it's very fast paced. So there's no time for like smiling. There's no time for, you know, any kind of, you know, just manners is just not here. As well as community, I think is really hard because London's such a big city. For people to really be honest and transparent and just be real, man. Like, I think that's a huge struggle because I really crave that, and I think some people, for whatever reasons, maybe past experiences, are very protective of those things. So you just get a lot of surface. So I think the field that I'm working in the arts, especially in this country, people are still trying to understand Black people. And I think with regards to the church, again, that's like what, I mean, I don't even know where to start. And it's so painful sometimes because, again, we as a species are so diverse and so beautiful in our many walks of life and cultures, and just there's so much that God has given us to celebrate. And I feel like it's been dumbed down so much so that to the point where even now with issues of race that are coming up, people are just so tentative that it's really uncomfortable for people to talk about. It's really uncomfortable, even for Black people now. It's almost like we feel like we can't speak now. And if we do, it's like there's this weird stigma that comes on it that all of a sudden now we're all having to apologize for just feeling and existing. And I feel like there's such a need for us as humans to be understood, but then at the same time, we as a people fail to understand others or even want to understand others. There's never much grace for the other person. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done, not just outside the church, within, you know, society, but also within the church, especially for us as believers to have, you know, our stuff together, to be like, boom, okay, let's go out and let's impact and encourage. And yes, no one's perfect, but I feel like we really, really do need to examine ourselves as a body, because when we're so segregated, we are so segregated, it's unreal. And I think I've never realized it as much until now. There's this interesting perception of, outside the church in particular, and inside the church too, that a single woman is almost a menace to herself. I think sometimes it's seen as you have got the butt end of the stick and you are a lady in waiting, nothing more. Like, there is no glory in singleness. And again, that thing of like those, you know, the deadly word submission that people hear outside the church, and they think, what? So you guys are becoming these slaves, and not seeing the liberty and freedom and what God has designed for a woman or biblical womanhood in his eyes and what that actually looks like. Yeah, there's a real cry for mature women to really reach out within this country in particular, within churches here, to really reach out to younger women, or just women who are seen as being on their own or just new in the faith. So I feel like the state of Christianity in this country, in particular, is very thin. It's very weak. It's very bland. And I think because as a culture we are very, we will only go so far. We will only give you so much, and that's just generally talking. Obviously, not every fellowship is like that in this country, but we're not very intentional. We're not very, I feel like the passion is quickly fading. Like, I've been to a few Christian festivals here, and obviously this has just been my opinion, but I feel like it's very much like we go for the feeling and then there's no follow through. And even just in terms of the biblical standard is so low. We don't seem to really want to understand God's word as it is written. We very much misinform, we dilute, we change to cater to the masses, to this whole kind of birth of a younger generation and a younger church, and getting the youth in because we see them as almost like a way of ticking boxes and stuff. I feel like there's such a real disfigurement of the beautiful bride that Christ has called us to be, which is really painful to see. In a nutshell, obviously I love all my brothers and sisters, but I feel like we really need to assess whether this is something whether we are seeking to please man or seeking to please God. There's just no substance right now. It's dry bread. It's Jacob's crackers. It's crusty, like someone's foot bottom. It's moldy bread, man. It's chicken soup with no chicken. It's just water. It's broth. It's broth. Oh, that's terrible. With no stock. It's just boiled water. That's really bad.